You're welcome to another episode of the Tundelanio podcast entitled The Nigerian Theatre Witnesses to History. Today it's an exciting episode because we have netted a big fish. A big fish who has made an impact in an area of theatre that people yearn to join. He's been in broadcasting for a while. Indeed, he's running some FM stations, not only in one state. And so he has quite a reach, and is the one that I have as my guest today, who will be witnessing to us his journey to today, so that we can make a connection from where he's coming from to date. I have the pleasure of presenting to you Mr. Gregory ODUTAYO.
Well done, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
To Witnesses to History. The program is about theater artists and people in different areas of the theater. And what we want to do is just to document our participation in these diverse areas of the theater so that people will have access in the future, near and far future, to the things that happened in our time, how we participated, our contribution, our high moments, our low moments, and our recommendations for moving forward in the diverse areas of theater that we've been involved with. First and foremost, how did you find yourself in this field?
Thank you, sir. For me, it's been a deliberate journey. It's been a deliberate journey even from before I got into the university, because I'll say the university, specifically the University of Ibadan, Theatre Arts Department, is basically what formed me, what gave me the foundation. But I had always wanted to study theatre. My dad, God bless his soul, when I told him that I wanted to do theatre, he just looked at me and said, you join our Baba Salah. But he didn't stand in my way. In fact, by the time I told him that I was going to do theatre, I had already gained admission into the diploma.
Really?
I didn't tell anybody. I just took the form. I just, as usual, I had just failed the JAMB. So I had to find an alternative.
Yeah.
So the alternative for me was their alternative for me was do high level HSC. And I had started that. But in between that, I had done first year of high school HSC. In between that, I heard about the diploma program in UI, and I took the form. I applied. I did everything, processed everything, got the admission before I told anybody at all that I had that admission. And I just felt that, okay, this is a pathway to what I wanted to do. So that's how I found myself in the Department of Theatre Arts, University of Ibadan. So I did a diploma program. I did 1 year after that outside, and I did the degree program, and I finished the degree in 1990, I think. So that was a journey. So for me, it was a deliberate journey. So even when I got into the university, I told myself that, look, I needed to have fun. I needed to enjoy this journey. And that's what I tried to do. I majored in directing, and I had, footsteps that I could follow, those I could. I also wanted to do television.
Right.
So I'm somebody who likes to put a lot of process to what I do. So while I was studying, doing directing, essentially most of what they taught us in directing then was directing for stage.
Yes.
But I also knew I wanted to do television. I knew I wanted to run that side of things. So while at school, we involved ourselves in things on television. We go to OGTV then in Abeokuta. I was involved on Village Headmaster. I was an actor. I was involved in another project by Uncle Jab in Abeokuta. You know, I still remember vividly. We went to Abeokuta, myself and a few other journeymen like me, you know, to actually pitch for a project when we were, I think, in 300 or 400 level, and they were going to pay us 250 naira per episode, all of us, for the project, and we rejected it. We said no, we're not doing. We felt it was too small.
Yeah.
We felt that okay, let's negotiate. They'll call us back, and we left. You know, we ended up doing the project.
How?
They gave it to one of our lecturers.
Ooh.
And we ended up doing it as course project. So it was quite painful, but it was a journey. It was an experience. You know, I tell people today that this generation, they're a very lucky generation.
Yeah.
You know, a very lucky one. I say till today that camera, I only saw cameras in books. I never, throughout my 5 years in UI, I never saw a physical camera. It was not available. But today, even your phones, you can record in phone with your phone and all of that. So I tell them that they're a privileged generation, but they are not taking full advantage of that privilege.
What they have.
We had to, if you had to read anything in school, then you had to go to the library.
Yeah.
They don't need to go to any library. You know, the library is on their phone.
Yeah.
You know, but do they appreciate it? I think we appreciate it more because we know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
We know how it used to be. You know how you used to do it. You burn the midnight candles.
Yes.
Nobody burns midnight candles anymore. You know, but it's a sign of progress. You know, so but I had that journey well fashioned out. I knew I wanted to do that. So I had that bit of television background in and out. So when I had my NYSC, I was posted to Jos, but I wasn't fulfilled. So I had to find my way back to Lagos. You know, I said to myself, I wanted to learn, you know, so I left a lot of things in Jos.
Right.
You know, I ended up at Cinecraft. I rambled my way to Cinecraft, and Lola Fanikade, Tike, and Mr. Fano. You know, where I did a lot in that 1 year because I tutored, I learnt, I shadowed. You know, Lola Fanikade was an excellent person to shadow, and I was able to shadow her. But at that point also, I had looked at the landscape, and I said to myself, okay, the industry, media, has several spheres. You know, television, advertising, events. So I said to myself, I wanted to go around.
Okay, the various
to take learning. So I started from core television with Cinecraft. I learned all of that. My first job was in advertising, OBM. I went into OBM, but I also went into OBM with a specific. I told them
what was that?
I had to be in radio and television department, you know. But the bright chaps in advertising then were the, you know, client service people. They're the hottest guys. They're the ones with the best ties. They want to. But I said no. I wanted to do. In fact, the first job I had at OBM, the day because we do a copy test to gain entrance. The day I resumed, the two people who were in copy resigned.
Same day?
By providence. That was their last day. So, you know, here was I, fresh out of youth service, and my creative director then said, well, your copy test wasn't bad, move to copy. That was the saddest day of my life.
End of radio.
Saddest day of my life, because I went to copy, and that was where I was for 1 month. I managed to do 1 month, but I told them that no. I went back to I said, if you are not, I applied for radio and TV. I was very specific. If you don't put me to radio and TV, I may have to resign because I'm not enjoying this copy business, you know. So I did 1 month. So when they saw that I was serious, they took me back to radio and TV.
Mm.
And so it was a deliberate journey.
Right.
So when I did that, I went to SYU, which was an urban, more like youthful agency then. I did 4 years, and after 4 years, I said to myself, for 5 years, I said to myself, I've learned enough in here, learning about creating adverts, producing commercials, all of that. I knew I had all of that. So I said I needed the events experience. So I ventured into event management. I went to Bates Kose. I learned how to do events, how to run. We were running Benson and Hedges franchise then. We did all of that. So we run events, we run radio programming, and that's where my major love for radio programming started from. So from there was when I started Royal Roots about that time.
Right.
And had a major project sponsored. So at that time when a sponsor came in, I told my boss I had to leave. So that's when I started Royal Roots, and we started with doing radio programming and doing stage plays, because my love for stage was still there. So we're doing stage plays, started radio program. From the radio program, we graduated to a second one and a third one. So that was so I tell people today that radio is the first set of monies that I made for. So my wife always says that that's why your first love is radio, because but that was what provided that first background.
Right.
And then from there we graduated into TV. We started doing TV programming. The frustration of doing TV programming in Nigeria led to us starting our TV station.
Talk about that.
Because it was...
Talk about that.
It was a period in which, up till now, it still happens. You have to create your content, produce it, put it on air, market it yourself, pay for airtime.
You pay for airtime.
Do all of those things. So we're doing all of that. And when, there was a lot of preemption. So if somebody is doing turbaning in Kano, they yank us off. President is doing this, they yank us off. So in a quarter of 13 weeks, they probably yanked us off like 7 times. So you were not ready, we're not getting any mileage. So, and you have paid. Because you have to prepay. So one day I just said to myself, I said, no, this is enough. So I told my team, I said, and what happened to us was, before that instruction was, there was a day they gave us preemption. So our program is 3 to 4. They ran their own program till 3:45, and then they put us on at 3:45. And then they ran us till 4 o'clock and took us off.
No.
And in their book, they wrote that
you have been
we ran. And I said, well, what is all this? So I was, frustration was much. So I told my team, I said, henceforth, immediately you have a preemption, write a letter.
Right.
20. Back it up. You must cover your back.
Yeah.
So we started doing that. So one day, after suffering another preemption, Sunday, on a Monday, my team wrote a mail, and the marketing manager called me immediately. I remember very vividly, I was in South Africa then. He called me. Unfortunately, before she called me, one of my biggest agencies, advertising agencies supporting me, had just called me that they were taking their adverts off our program because we were suffering.
You were not playing
much,
in full.
preemption. So I had just finished that conversation. I was just dropping the phone when she calls, and she says, you people are always writing letter every minute, letter. That you love writing letter. In fact, that letter, go and do that. Some unpredictable words I can't say. So I allowed her to speak. After finishing speaking, I said to her, you know what? I'm not even doing it again. Return our money. That airtime, maybe you probably go and put your family portrait there. I don't even want to take it. Return my money. It was that point that I decided that, you know what? I need to go. I need to control that space.
Yes.
I like control.
Yeah.
I like to control my environment. So even when we started TV, I didn't want a situation whereby you are on location, you are hurrying. I didn't want that. So I ensured that we had the minimal equipment to run with.
Right.
So that you are in total control of what
you're doing.
So that was what. So I said, I think it's time for us to take that total control into television and say, okay, let's start our TV station. And then we started the research, and we went into it, and we were able to achieve it, you know.
I think that we should let our audience know that we are talking like this because it's a time of reflection, a time of telling the story of how a witness moves from one spot to the other. What are the things that motivated decisions? And that's what we are hearing from Greg ODUTAYO, from his love for theater, from his exploit into different areas of the theater. And we are just laying the foundation of his achievements in that field. Now, when you decided to take control, as you said, and put yourself where you can control what happens to your product, did you suffer any backlash for what happened on NTA with the agencies?
The agencies were actually quite happy that we were, venturing to control what we were doing. But, the only backlash we suffered was the fact that they didn't trust you enough, because to them you are just starting. So your station doesn't have, the required leverage. Also, they can't still give you adverts yet, And it forced us to rethink and say, okay, so how do we go around it? Okay, let's keep running the station, but we still need to find other ways to make money, to keep going. So we still had to go back to running our programs on syndicated, some of the stations that are already there.
Right.
But what it did to us now was that we're having a different conversation. It was not a conversation of me as a TV owner speaking to other TV stations and saying, and then my opening remarks is always, my name is Greg ODUTAYO. I also run a TV station in Lagos. So that gives you a different seat at the table.
At the table, yeah.
And so with that we're able to conquer some of the problems that we had experienced with NTA. So it was easier for, we could leverage that to say, look, I do this. And it was in the midst of that we also went into radio to set up radio stations. And radio is, like my wife always says, my first love. Radio for me was everything, was a lot of things. Radio built the company from scratch. So even the monies we had to spend on TV, we made it from radio. And we were able to set up the station in Ibadan. And the journey of the station in Lagos is one that is most interesting for me.
Talk to me about that. And then we come back to Ibadan. Because that was your original base.
That was the original base. The station in Lagos was divine. Let me put it that way. When we first applied for license, we applied for license in Lagos. That license request is still in NBC till today. We never got the license. Instead, we got Ibadan.
How?
So, well, it was a case of there's no space in Lagos.
Oh.
Go to find somewhere else. The nearest other place for me was Ibadan. So we came to Ibadan. But I persisted. And one person, a friend of mine, Doing, who assisted me to get the license for Ibadan, came to me one day and said, Greg, you've been talking about this Lagos. It's time for applications. Let's apply now. I said, no, they've already told me that there's no space in Lagos. So why should I
bother myself?
Why should I waste money? But Doing was persistent. So when his persistence became too much, I said, I took 50,000 was the license fee. I took it from my pocket. I didn't even take it from the company. I took it from my pocket and I gave Doing. I said, yeah, take. He said, no, it's the only one that you want. Let's apply Port Harcourt. Let's apply Abuja. Let's apply. I said, no, I think one is fine, because I didn't trust.
Yeah, that it will happen.
I didn't believe, so I just did I gave him that one, and I left it. And God bless his soul, though he passed on a few years ago. One day the NBC DG just called me. He said, Greg, your application for Lagos license has been approved by the presidency. Just a call out of the blues. Later I learned that, well, the PA, later told me that, he saw our name on the list, and he said, no, make sure you include them. These are true professionals, rather than all these politicians that we give. So make sure he's included. So that was how my name got onto the presidency, and I was approved, and we got the license. With the license, now came the second hurdle of frequency.
Yes.
So we came back and said, license. They said no frequency. You have to move it from Lagos to somewhere else. I said no. The God that provided this license for me is going to provide the frequency. That the way I got this license is divine.
Yes.
It's not anybody's work. It's divine. So God can give me this license, and then he doesn't provide a frequency. I said no, it's not. So I refused to move it. And because I refused to move it, they refused to give me an allocation letter for it, which was, for today, with purposes of hindsight, was divine.
Yeah.
Because I had spoken to a couple of friends about it, and out of blues one day, a friend of mine went to LBS together, Lagos Business School. Because I said, Greg, try your Lagos license. How far? I said that. They said there's no frequency. Do you want a frequency? Talk to so, and gave the phone to, it was the director of engineering in NBC. Fantastic woman. Mrs. AK, engineer AK, fantastic woman. And AK said, okay, you have license. Do you still want frequency? I said, yes, I do. Okay, come to Abuja on Monday. It was a Friday. Monday, I was in Abuja. She took me to the DG's office. The DG looked. I said, I know Greg now. Now this was a new DG, an acting DG.
Yeah.
Oh, I know Greg now. Do you have space, frequency to give him? I said, no, I have some 2 or 3 that we've just created. I can give him one out of it. And that's how she gave me.
That's right.
A frequency. Just like that. The testimony is not finished, sir. I got the allocation letter. So now, an allocation letter had to be written. This was already 2 years into the license. But because the letter was not written, it was now written for that new date. So if I had gotten that letter, my license would have been 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
So, and 2 years gone, it can be cancelled.
Yes.
But because the letter was not written, so the letter was written for that day, new date that I got it. I got that letter on a Tuesday or Wednesday. On Friday, the acting DG was removed. So that's a bigger miracle for me. Because if he hadn't signed it, we'll have started that process all over. And that license issue created a bit of runcos in NBC, because everybody was like, no, he must have said to us. And I had to address it. I said, Engineer AK, to today, 10 naira I have not given her. But because everybody believed that before you can get a Lagos license, you must have
spent so much money.
I said, this license, 50,000 naira that I used to buy the form is what I spent.
Now I have to stop you there. It's getting exciting. You can see there's so much that has impacted the way Gregory ODUTAYO has been moving on from being somebody interested in going in for the diploma in theater arts in UI. And we're just starting the journey. And we'll be continuing the journey next week on the next episode of the Nigerian Theater Witnesses to History. If you have watched this and you love it, please like and share with other people. And there is that bell in your YouTube. Click on it so that each time that an episode comes up, you will be notified and you can be a part of this great experience that we are having, recalling the history and the trajectory of the Nigerian theatre as spoken by participants themselves. Until then, it's bye.